Welcome into the Quest Number 9 podcast. My name is Seth Warner. On this podcast, we talk about Kentucky basketball from a fan's perspective. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about Kentucky's win versus Vanderbilt on Saturday, where Kentucky was able to have a revenge game versus the Commodores, where Kentucky was able to win 91-77 in a game where Kentucky was able to outmatch the Commodores in pretty much every way, being able to dominate this game early and late, where Kentucky going up 10-5 early and giving them a big advantage, shooting 50% from three, making 11 threes, and 6 of those coming from Colin Chandler. Colin Chandler having 23 points. Otega Owe having 23 points. It was a very dynamic performance for both of those guys. We also was able to get 15 from Denzel Aberdeen, having kind of a top-heavy rotation, somewhat normal now, but having 4 guys in double figures with those 3, and Malachi Moreno also giving you 11 and 6 with 5 assists and only 2 turnovers is really big from a guy like Malachi, where Kentucky was able to control the pace and establish a rhythm. Malachi had the first basket of the game off a offensive rebound, where Kentucky was able to draw up a beautiful set to start the game and was able to take advantage of that opportunity that they were given early on of a mismatch against a smaller Vanderbilt team, similar to who Kentucky's going to be playing coming up on Tuesday against a smaller Texas A&M team who their biggest guy is like 6'7", but they have one guy that plays some that's 6'11", but really they're more of a three-point shooting team, spread you out. So it was really encouraging to see Kentucky be able to do this from the beginning and end. That's something we have not seen from the Cats over any stretch of time outside of really the Arkansas game this year, where Kentucky has been able to string together large portions of the game, where Kentucky had been able to control the pace, establish their own rhythm, get production from a lot of different guys. They had a total of 13 bench points. Mo Diabate had 8 of those. He played 24 minutes. He had 8 and 4, 1 for 3 from the field. When you get 14 points from your 4 position, that's pretty solid for the Cats. You get 13 points from your 5 spot. That's really solid for us for the production we had been getting. Jasper Johnson gave you 12 minutes. He had 3 points, knocked down a shot, had no turnovers, 1 rebound, 1 assist. That's really solid for a guy that has had some major turnover issues where he just has not been able to hang on to the ball and be able to control possessions like we need him to or want him to going into this important stretch. And this checks off the first check mark for the Cats as we head forward towards SEC tournament. Kentucky is getting into a really big stretch where the Cats need to play well, need to execute well, and have some very important games coming up. Like I said, on Tuesday, Kentucky is one of their last 2 regular season games is Texas A&M. Texas A&M right now is a 1.5-point favorite. It's a 7 o'clock game. It's going to be ESPN2, and it's going to be at Texas A&M, a Texas A&M team that's very desperate right now, having several losses. Lost on Saturday against Texas, losing in a rivalry game at home 76-70, where they had lost 5 out of their last 7, and the Aggies have just not been able to create a whole lot of momentum after starting 7-1 and now being 9-7 in the conference and going at 2-6 in their last 9 for the Aggies that have really been struggling at home and on the road. It just hasn't. It's been a bunch. It's been a combination of a lot of things for the Aggies, a team that is not particularly known for their size. Their biggest player that plays somewhat consistent minutes, he's 6'11", but he's coming off the bench. Their biggest guy in their starters is 6'7", and their main operation for them that they play through is Rashawn Greer, the senior 6'7" wing, really versatile guy, averaging 14 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. Was a shooter last year, shooting 38%, 39% from three, only shooting 23 this year. Coming from USC, transferring over for the Aggies, former Bowling Green transfer. So the guy's been around for a while. This is 5th year of college basketball. Big 6'7", like I said, 231 pounds. That's big for only 6'7". Malachi Moreno only weighs 250 pounds at 7 feet tall, so that just shows you some of his physicality. And this Texas A&M team is going to try to get those 3-point shots up with under their new head coach this year. Bucky Irving, who's the head coach that just came over for the Aggies after losing their coach going to Maryland, him stepping away there. The Aggies start out really hot, like I said, winning their first 7, starting SEC play 7-1 in first place. And then, like I said, went on the big skid for them. But kind of coming back to this Vanderbilt game, Kentucky, like I said, was able to establish their dominance and their rhythm in this game. Very big, checking out that first check mark and allowing Kentucky to put up the numbers offensively and be able to contain this Vanderbilt team, who has one of the most explosive offenses. They only allowed them to score 8 points in the last 11 minutes in a 11-minute stretch in the first half of this game, really allowing Kentucky to establish their dominance, establish control over this game, where Kentucky was able to maximize their opportunities down the stretch to have a 20-point lead in the second half, allowing in the first and in the second half, allowing this Vanderbilt team to go on a couple 10-2 runs, be able to cut the lead to 12 once. But Vanderbilt never got the lead outside of the first 8 minutes or so to under 12. And that was a really good sign for the Cats as we get closer and closer to a section where Kentucky needs to be able to take care of business in games where they are the more talented team, especially when you get into some of these NCAA tournament games and some of these big matchups for the Cats, where Kentucky, if they don't take care of business early, like we've seen them do, they give these teams opportunities to win, especially in that first round, where if Kentucky, I think, can get some confidence, keep themselves rolling, they're a team that, like we've always talked about, we don't know who's going to show up. They're up and down, up and down, up and down. But if the Cats, I think, get some momentum rolling and get some confidence, I think Kentucky has a good opportunity to be able to take over and establish their will on this game, like in other games, like they did in this game, allowing this Kentucky team to really play to what their potential is. Also, we got an update today from Jack Pilgrim, friend of the program, who said that Jaden Quainton's potentially going to start practicing soon. It's going to start ramping up, trying to make a last effort at playing for this season. We have about 2 weeks left of him potentially ramping up. We'll see what happens then, if he could potentially be a Friday or even a Saturday candidate to play in the SEC tournament. We'll see what happens there with him and his development. But Kentucky checked off the first one off the list, getting that big Vanderbilt win after a very mucky win versus South Carolina, that as a fan and as just the media and just people in general, felt like this gave Kentucky a lot more confidence compared to that South Carolina game, where Kentucky just was able to survive and then really was able to show what they're capable of against a very talented and very smartly coached Vanderbilt team that's going to expose some of your weaknesses and really be able to attack you in multiple different ways to make you defend and to stretch your defense out, similar to how this Texas A&M team is going to. And they're going to be a very high three-point offense coming up on Tuesday, but Kentucky just needs to play with their pace and understand that Denzel Aberdeen right now is playing at a very, very, very high level. Dude is not turning the ball over, 4 assists a game. Sometimes he had 15 points on 50% from the floor. There's one guy Kentucky's had some turnover issues. We want to put the ball in his hands as much as possible, especially against some of these really good teams, especially like Florida, who's going to get up in your grill. Kentucky turnovers are just going to be a killer if Kentucky really wants to put themselves in a double bye and all that things. We need this backcourt to be elite, and they have been over this last 5-ish stretch. Colin Chandler's had one down game, but overall I thought he's been pretty consistent. We'll see how the Cats respond to a big win and then another big opportunity going on the road against the Aggies, where they have been very inconsistent and up and down and not super confident. If I'm an Aggies fan at home or on the road, it's just been they've been losing kind of consistently right now, but we'll see if this Texas A&M team, as we get closer to the SEC tournament, can stop the bleeding. And this Texas A&M team is a really balanced effort, having 5 players that score double figures, 6 players that over 9.5 points per game. They have 10 guys that play at least 13 minutes a game. They're shooting around 36% from 3. A high-volume three-point shooting team. They continue to be a little bit streaky. That's kind of what we thought Texas A&M would be at the beginning of the year, but they've been a lot more consistent. And that's all from the Quest Number 9 podcast. My name is Seth Warner. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. And I post all my stuff on Instagram. You can go follow me at Quest Number 9 on Instagram and Twitter to stay up to date for all my new episodes. I post reels and all kinds of different things on there to stay up to date for all things Kentucky basketball. Go Cats, and I'll see you next time.